Exclusive footage obtained by TMC Minas Gerais shows pastor and prospective candidate for state representative for the PL in Minas, Renata Vieira, assaulting a furniture delivery man.
Candidate for state representative in Minas.
Renata Vieira. Furniture.
In addition to grabbing him by the collar, Renata slaps the man's face and throws a stone in his direction.
Gerais, the pastor, and Minas, Renata Vieira, assaulting the pastor,
who also calls herself a neuroscientist, released a statement on social media saying that the man refused to complete the delivery for political reasons after discovering that she is affiliated with the PL. Renata also says she was assaulted by the delivery man moments before the recorded footage.
I pray to God that he can save that soul, but for all the harm he's causing so many people, he has to answer for it here. No one is above the law. No one is above the Constitution. So why does he think he can be? Why does his wife get 129 million to pretend she's practicing law? He uses his office to help private interests and doesn't answer for it. Why is he above the law? Why isn't even an inquiry opened? Why doesn't any investigation start? Because Brazil has become the country of impunity.
These harsher remarks from Flavio Bolsonaro regarding Alexandre de Moraes. Alexandre de Moraes, who is an enemy of that outspoken voter of Flavio Bolsonaro, and then he reinforces Cesar Feitosa rhetoric aimed squarely at that voter. That voter, that segment of the population whose vote for Flavio Bolsonaro is already firmly locked in. It's a speech that strays from that image of moderation that many of those independent voters are looking for. At this point, not at either extreme. I wanted to hear your thoughts on a stance like this, or how effective such a stance can be in a scenario like this, where those who are going to vote for Flavio Bolsonaro, those who are Flavio Bolsonaro's voters, will vote for him regardless of anything. Now, what does this speech mean for that portion of the population that still needs to be won over? That's the point. And what legal consequences perhaps could speeches like this have? Today could have for Flavio Bolsonaro's unofficial campaign at this stage.
Yeah, all of this shows, Livia, that Flavio has done very little to change his public persona in these months leading up to the election. Facing these various crises that he started to deal with since April, since the revelation of his audio recordings involving Flavio Bolsonaro, the financing of the movie, then the crisis with Michelle, the Tarifaço crisis, and now the photo of the hitman. All of this keeps piling up. And this makes that independent voter who doesn't know whether to vote for Lula or Flavio in a possible runoff end up either casting a blank vote or switching to Lula. And in this way weakening Flavio Bolsonaro's candidacy, even if the difference isn't that big. Every percentage point there is very important right now because everything indicates that the election is going to be very close. Just like the last two Brazilian presidential elections were, especially the last one, right, between Jair Bolsonaro and Lula, the closest election since the return to democracy. And everything indicates that this election will also be very close, and it's the votes of independent voters, not the entrenched vote, that will decide who will be the new president elected in October this year. So Flavio Bolsonaro, faced with these various crises, abandons the image he'd been cultivating of Bolsonaro as the one who got vaccinated, the moderate Bolsonaro. He goes back to adopting a more radical tone, just like his own father Jair used to do. To test, to see how his base and independent voters assess these harsher criticisms he makes of the Supreme Court, and specifically of Minister Alexandre de Moraes, as a response to this loss of momentum his candidacy has been experiencing in these last weeks, in these last months. The result doesn't seem to me at first glance to be something that should be good for Flavio Bolsonaro, because Brazilians seem to be more tired of this political radicalization. Yeah, the 2022 election, even though it was decided by a very narrow margin, it was decided. With this broader message embraced by Lula and Alckmin as part of this broad coalition in favor of democracy and against authoritarianism. A message that won most Brazilians' votes and helped elect Lula as president of the Republic. So radicalization doesn't seem to me to be the most appropriate way for us to turn around this difficult situation that Flavio has been facing. Now, the concern with the Supreme Court's decisions, many of them genuine and legitimate concerns, is something that the population truly feels. They are reflected in these criticisms that Flavio Bolsonaro and several other politicians have made in recent years. And therefore, criticizing the Supreme Federal Court and its decisions brings in votes. The question is whether the tone adopted by Flavio Bolsonaro in these criticisms is the most appropriate or not, electorally speaking.
Starting tomorrow, the federal police will implement a special plan to ensure the safety of this year's presidential candidates. The operation will have the support of more than 450 staff members and is expected to cost around 95 million reais to the public coffers. It's Pedro Moreira who will give us more details about these numbers and how this plan will work. Good morning, Pedro.
Hi, Carol. Good morning. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Look, the federal police said that since last year, they have trained around 600 officers to work on the security of presidential candidates. This is a legal prerogative. Brazilian law states that the federal police are responsible for the security of presidential candidates. Out of the total that were trained, the federal police estimate that around 460 will actually be called to serve. They are all from the federal police. They are police chiefs, clerks, and also agents specialized in protecting public officials. And these 95 million reais that will be spent, which is the federal police's initial estimate, will be used for the mobilization of these agents, but also for the acquisition of services and equipment, such as armored vehicles, high-performance ballistic vests, anti-drone systems, and even bomb disposal kits. The federal police classifies the candidates into different levels. There are four levels of threat. High, or rather, let's start from the bottom up. Low, moderate, and very high. But the federal police guarantees that all candidates will be treated equally. The operations will be coordinated by a national command and control room here in Brasilia and will be available starting tomorrow, Monday, but they depend on the confirmation of the names at the party conventions. Only after the candidates are officially nominated by the parties can they request this service. The federal police also says it will work in coordination with local security forces as well, all aimed at protecting these candidates. Well, who can use it, right, Carol? So, these are the candidates who need to be approved by the parties. CNN consulted the parties to find out if they will make use of these services. Among the candidates who appear in the opinion polls, those who confirm to us that they will request this service. For now, they are Romeu Zema from Novo, Ronaldo Caiado from PSD, and Renan Santos from Missão. Senator Flavio Bolsonaro, a pre-candidate for president from the PL party, told CNN that, as a personal preference, he will continue using the team that already looks after him, which is a team of legislative police officers, a team from the National Congress itself. And in the case of President Lula, this security will be handled jointly by the Institutional Security Office, which is linked to the Presidency of the Republic, and the Federal Police, Carol.